And how did that awareness for this gift come into your life? Has that always been with you? And when did you maybe notice that others, I dare say now, not everyone has this clear connection to that higher self, right?
Well, first, I want to say everybody has
or has
this.
it, or would not be aware. That's the thing.
I would say first and foremost, everybody has this capacity, Reggie. I was given a gift when my dad was in the hospital and in a coma. My mom and I were sitting in the hospital waiting to find out what was happening with the surgery that was life or death, this blood clot that was blocking his liver. And as we're sitting there, I'm talking to my dad the same way I'm talking to you. It's just like I can hear, and I can often validate in reality whatever I hear. This happens to me pretty frequently. So I'm talking to my dad about his choice to leave or to go. And my mom says, honey, can you teach me how to do this? And I said, well, shoot, I don't know. I asked Source, can I teach this? Yes. Do I have permission to teach this? Yes. How do I teach it? And then I was downloaded a method. And so I now call it soul talking. And I've actually done it with all of my coaching clients. And I've taught about 20 people now how to do it. And what's been beautiful is we can all soul talk. We can all be connected to divinity, to our higher self, to whatever we consider source, whatever that might be. You could be an atheist and still have your form of source. It doesn't have to be a connection to spirituality. We all have an inner knowing, and that just shows up differently, and we label it differently depending on our background.
Yeah, and it's this practice or making sure that we create space for that, right?
Yeah, it's in the stillness that it becomes available. To answer your earlier question of the first time I really noticed it is when I was studying Kabbalah. So one of my favorite teachers, I've been studying Kabbalah for about 12 years now, David Guillaume, he was teaching me to talk out loud to Source, to God. And it was late 2019, early 2020, there was a technique Kabbalistically that I had learned that's called proactive confrontation. Now, no matter what your beliefs are personally, I highly recommend this technique. It is so easy and it will prevent a lot of conflict and wars if world leaders are listening to this. And the idea is, let's say I have to have a challenging conversation with you, Reggie, with a loved one, with a co-founder, whomever it might be. Instead of going directly to you and just boom, diving right into that conversation, instead, I would sit silently in reflection and I would imagine connecting to you at the heart level. And I would first ask, Reggie, is today a good day for us to talk about this subject? And you would feel if it's a yes or a no. If it's a no, you wait for better timing. If it's a yes, you continue with the conversation. So that's proactive confrontation by the Kabbalist. I've since evolved it where this is where I started to be able to have that first experience of hearing something more than just a yes or a no. Then you go into what I call heart talking or soul talking, where you actually imagine having a whole conversation with the person you're in conflict with at the heart level. I'm going to share one of my favorite stories that who I affectionately call number 3. So Amy Levin, who's a dear, dear friend of mine, we were traveling around Asia last December, and she had been an early beta tester of our OptiMatch algorithm. And she says, oh, Jen, why don't I retake the algo? I haven't done it in a while. I said, okay, great. So we're sitting in Sri Lanka airport. She re-answers it. And I lovingly call her number 3 because out of over 1,000 people at the time in our system, I was her number 3 match. So number 3 and I love each other very much. We spent 4 weeks traveling across 5 countries and didn't get in a single fight. So number 3 told me a story while we were on that trip that I loved when I was sharing with her my experience of heart talking. She said, Jen, I actually had something similar happen where I was coaching one of our clients. She's an executive coach as well. She said, it was this guy, Tony, and Tony was like very like, oh, you're not going to mess with me sort of a guy, right? And Tony had a child who was being bullied by another kid at school. So Tony wanted to go give him a piece of his mind, right? So instead, Amy taught him to do this technique, which was to talk to him at the heart level, talk to the kid who was bullying his kid. This all happened on a Friday. They guided him through it. Sunday, Reg, the kid who was bullying their kid knocked on the door and apologized.
Wow.
And no conversation ever took place in reality. That's why it gives me chills.
Yeah, that must be, I mean, yeah, it's rewarding also for you, I would think, right?
Yeah, it's for everybody. And this is why I do it all the time. When my co-founder and I have a disagreement, or my husband and I'll go into a quiet, meditative, contemplative state. I'll imagine reaching out to them at the heart level. I'll see how far we can get and if it's a good time to talk to them about it. And I think this could solve a lot of our conflicts and prevent it too.
Yeah. What I see in there is also, I mean, peace comes to my mind, I should say heart also. It's like really dropping. If I imagine myself in a conversation, I would see if I had to kind of draw lines, I would draw them in the head, right? From head to head, from brain to brain. But actually just imagining that it's here. Yeah. It's very reassuring and calming. And I said peace before, but I also hear patience in that, because I think in today's world, and maybe that's a general trait, I mean, something in us also needs this energy to react quickly sometimes to things, right? And that's maybe what happens then in a more confrontational way and less from the heart if we just react quickly instead of taking the time, as you say, to really go and connect with the heart and let it happen there. So,
I think it's the way that we're going to evolve as human beings. I think that our culture up till this point has been based on the concept of competition and I smash you, Hulk smash, I defeat you. And now the latest science tells us that we actually evolved to cooperate, not to compete. And I think we're going to see our society be rebuilt based on a foundation of cooperation rather than competition, though I believe we're going to have to go through a dark night of the soul first, a death and rebirth.
Because at the same time, I'm thinking, you mentioned Optimatch already, the platform, and I would like to touch up on that as well. And at the same time, what you're saying right now kind of brings to my mind the what's happening right now in technology, right, where you're in as well. So it's almost a race in terms of who is bringing forward the next technology, even more advanced and so on. How do you navigate that, being part of that world and still so much also of the other world, the more peaceful, soulful?
I think that it goes back to another Kabbalistic technique, which is desiring to receive for the self alone versus desiring to receive for the sake of sharing. Yeah. So if I want to go out and build a product that's going to get me $100 million or $1 billion for me and our investors and our team, and I'm doing it for me, it's going to lead to pain for all of us. However, if I'm building this technology with a team, with our investors, with everybody, from a place of receiving for the sake of sharing, our reason we're building Optimatch is to connect 1 billion people deeply and meaningfully to themselves and others. And I don't mean that in a trite or cavalier way. I really, truly mean, everybody says to me, Reg, how do you have such a deep, wonderful relationship with your husband, with your friends, with your family, with your business partners?
With yourself.
With myself. And I call it the golden triangle of connection. So it all starts with connection to self, which allows for connection to others, which allows for the top of the pyramid, which is connection to purpose. And so that's where I think building technology is important, is the consciousness with which we do everything gives us the output from which we do anything.
That's beautiful. Yeah, there's so much wisdom in that.